Jim Nagy, he's been a big part of Oklahoma's recruiting strategy and transfer portal moves. He's got a big request that he put out there. We'll discuss coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks again for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Jay, there's nobody out there that does social media quite like Jim Nagy. Maybe a Lane Kiffin, but in college football, everybody's kind of buttoned up. They're all trying to, put their best foot forward. Jim Nagy, man, he's just out there having a good time. And I think it's a strong representative for Oklahoma that your general manager plays the social media game pretty well. He always did when he was part of the Senior Bowl, and he's just carried that over to his new role as GM of Oklahoma.
Yeah, he does a really good job of tweeting out the players that he really liked, especially with the Senior Bowl. It's probably my favorite thing to do. If you go back and just dig through his archives, you start finding these little gems out there. And then you recognize one thing, John. Jim Nagy knows what he's doing. I think that's the one thing that you start to recognize and take in consideration. Like, oh, no, he actually does have a type, and a lot of his types end up, going to the league and may not be an instant impact, but a lot of them are in the league, and then some make a big impact quick, some don't. But he has a very good eye and knack for it, and so he felt the need to go out there and put out a little bit of a demand, about an $81 million one to be exact. It's a lot of money. But at the same time, more so tongue-in-cheek joke, he put a tweet out there and said, OU is looking for a football equivalent of this dude in recruiting, #baller. Well, that was a picture of Alex Caruso, who just recently signed a 4-year, $81 million deal with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Of course, he's watching NBA playoffs right now. And I thought that was pretty interesting that he threw out there a guy that's known for being scrappy and a grinder and who's willing to play their role because they know that they're going to get their honeypot in the end, in which Oklahoma City did reward him with a very nice contract because they have the ability to do that right now. Well, the Oklahoma Sooners are going to be in similar situations. They're going to have certain spots where they're going to be able to put additional money at this player or that player over time as we figure out this revenue sharing thing. And so they're going to look for those dudes that are going to be out there grinding and being scrappy. Well, he also did it last night when he was talking about another player. He said, OU is looking for the football equivalent of this dude in recruiting, #clutch, talking about J-Dub, Jalen Williams. John, that's the perfect tweet to put out right now because we're in the midst of recruiting. As we just talked about last segment, we're starting to see visits. Visits are being lined up. Kids are starting to put out their top teams. And we'll talk, of course, that more thoroughly over time. But that is becoming a big deal right now. We're now in what we would consider true recruiting season. Because as these OVs in June usually happen, this is when you start seeing your commitments. June, July, early August. It's always been the Oklahoma Sooners schedule. Their goal is to get majority of the class in by the beginning of August, right before the first game of the season. That way they can focus on ball and, try to propel us to the top level. But I think that Nagy, he's got a type, and that type is NFL prospect.
Well, and what's interesting here is I think he's doing some good crowdsourcing as well. So they're going to watch a lot of guys, but they're not going to be able to watch every guy.
No.
But if a coach drops a kid's tape into the reply, or the player comes responding saying, hey, take a look at mine. He's like, okay, I'll take a look. I don't know if he does, but you'd be more apt to look at a kid if he drops himself in the reply and saying, Coach, I'm clutch, or Coach, I'm scrappy. I'm the dude you're looking for. And so it's kind of a nice little crowdsourcing function that Jim Nagy's putting out there, as opposed to trying to scour the tapes of 100,000 high school football players. He's going to have them come to him a little bit too. And when you're at the University of Oklahoma, you can do that a little bit. And so it's a fascinating one, but that he's going to be looking for traits. Like, he's certainly looking for types of players that are going to have NFL traits, that are going to have, even if they don't have, strong NFL traits, they're going to have a certain kind of attitude about the game. And in response to the Alex Caruso one, I replied, I said, hey, Nico Jandro kind of sounds like who you're looking for. And he's like, yeah, he definitely is. He's a scrappy type of player, and he is. He's a heat-seeking missile. The dude's really tough, plays fast, plays aggressive, plays scrappy, plays, pest type football.
Yes.
Someone's just going to be in your face all the time. And they're kind of looking for that aggressive mindset. And I think it's fun to watch, man. And it's fun to watch just Jim Nagy just having a good time with it too. So much of college football and sports anymore is so serious. As we talked about in the first segment, it impacts a lot of people and a lot of things, but it's just good to see your GM having a little bit of fun out there on social media.
Absolutely. You want a guy that can relate with the young peoples, as they would say. We don't want an old man screaming at the clouds. You want somebody that's actually going to be able to relate to the kids. But as you mentioned, John, Nagy's eye, as good as it can be, he can't be the only one, which is why he's putting together a team. He's assembling a staff of people that will be able to do a lot. It feels like he's got the Avengers coming behind him, because every time I turn around, somebody's saying there's somebody new joining the staff. He talked to J.D. Piquel weeks ago, and we talked about this, that he was going to be adding some more staff members and potentially adding one that has more NFL experience than him, which that would be awesome to see and hear. We're waiting for that, but it sounds like Nagy is adding another person to staff. I don't know if you recognize this, but Oklahoma is set to hire UCLA Director of Player Personnel Stacey Ford. That was tweeted out late yesterday. Ford has spent time at UCLA since March of 2024, but he also worked in 2022 and 2023 at Washington State with Ben Arbuckle. And so he's out here going after dudes that have some NFL background. He started as an intern with the Raiders, and he's kind of moved around from there, but they're starting to build out this staff of guys with the eye for NFL type talent. And I think it's pretty huge that he's also seeing guys that have worked with some of the coaching staff before. So that past relationship makes it really easy to integrate who is going after the priorities and the types of players that they know the coach wants. I mean, he was there from 22 and 23 while Ben Arbuckle was there at Washington State. So obviously he's highly recommended by Ben, because he was there, as a I think he was a director of player personnel there as well. And he was helping, Ben Arbuckle find some of these diamonds in the rough, players like a John Mateer type. Y'all want more of those, right? Now, the unfortunate thing is for a lot of these Sooner fans out there is, if you go after that, you're not going to guarantee to get only 5 stars. You're going to find some very high hidden gem 3 stars that's going to upset a lot of our delegation, John. I'm not sure how they're going to feel about getting really good players that aren't rated very high.
Trust the offers. If Jim Nagy, Brent Venables, and that staff are offering players, you got to imagine that they've got something. And that's just where I'm going to come down to is, you can look at the recruiting rankings, you can look at the stars, and do they matter? Sure, they're going to matter to an extent. But I'm going to trust a Jim Nagy and a Brent Venables more than I'll trust my own eyes, more than I'll trust the star ratings, because they've seen it, they've done it, they've found good talent for the better part of 20 years at the collegiate, and then Jim Nagy at the NFL level. So if you want to look at the stars and be like, oh, he's not very good because he's only a 3-star, or he's an unrated prospect, if that's all you're going to go off of, okay, that's fine. But again, let's trust Ben Arbuckle, the offensive coordinator, who's put together really good offenses. Let's trust Brent Venables, who's been one of the best defensive coordinators in college football for the last 25 years. Let's trust Jim Nagy, who again has been a part of 2 Super Bowl championship teams and was a part of the Senior Bowl, unearthing a lot of talent there at the Senior Bowl. Yeah. Trust the process. Not to steal from the Sixers a little bit, but I'm going to steal from them. Just trust the process. Not everybody, and we've seen 5 stars not hit. Like we've seen, in recent years, we've seen 5 stars not hit.
Boy, have we.
And that could have been an evaluation process from Lincoln Riley, and even under the Brent Venables regime.
That's true.
Just trust the process. And that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in, being a part of the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. So hit that subscribe button and that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Follow Jay at Unfair Sports. Go check out his channel, Unfair Sports, over on YouTube. You can follow me at John9Williams and read my work covering the Sooners over at SoonersWire.com. The show is at Locked On Sooners on all of your favorite social media platforms. But until next time, he's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. We'll talk to you then. Boomer.
Sooner. I think Nagy's going to find some of the really good ones. Just a hunch.
He already is.